I think the economic analysis on the news, most of the time, is horrendously bad. You might as well not listen to it, really. You're better off trying to build your connections with friends, family, workmates, to build an understanding of what's happening in their lives. I think you need to have an understanding of the country that we live in, which is that there are a lot of very poor people. There are a lot of very poor people in this country, and that's growing. But there is also a big chunk of people in the middle who own property, own some wealth, and are feeling insecure because they're losing it. That this is the world that we live in, right? We have a big growing chunk of poor, and then we have a decent chunk of, what do they call them, the precariat? You know, people who own property, but they can see that the truth is, you know, we just done the video just now, the dying middle class, the death of the middle class. So you have this middle class, it's shrinking. Generation after generation, it's shrinking. So these guys are feeling insecure because they are insecure, right? They are insecure. But if the political environment we create is the poor against the insecure middle class, we're never going to win like that, are we? You need to create this alliance of the poor and the insecure middle class against the very rich who are taking everything. That's what you need to create. And it's, yeah, if we allow there to be division where the very poor are like, oh, it's the middle class is not protecting us. You know, I know I've been poor and I've been part of this property owning middle class, you know. I've been in both of these spaces, you know. And most people who are poor, aspire to be in that property owning middle class because it's being poor. You know what I mean? I've been it. There's no fun. But if you turn around to them and say, what we're going to do is we're going to attack the property owning middle class, that's what they want to be, you know. So I think you need to be able to build, and I think we can do it. And I think that sometimes some people on the political left sometimes encourage that infighting. But we can't have infighting. We need to build unity. And we need to understand that that means creating alliances between people in different financial positions. You know what I mean? Some people who are very poor and some people who own assets. But, you know, otherwise, how do we win? You know, if you create that fight at the same time the super rich are taking everything, it's a little bit like you're playing chess and the other side is just taking your pieces one at a time. You know, those are the guys who are taking the pieces. That is where the world is going. If you don't attack the people who are taking the things that you need, you know, you're going to lose, right? You need to fight power where it is, you know. Did you read 1984? 1984 by George Orwell. So there's a bit of 1984 called is it 3 Minutes Hate? 3 Minutes Hate, I think. And I think the point of that is like, they show them some videos to make them angry. But a big point of it is, when you get people angry, it's actually quite easy to shift the target of their anger. You get people angry and you shift the target of their anger because people don't really understand how the system works. People know they're getting f***ed over and they are getting f***ed over, right? But people don't understand exactly how or exactly why, because it is confusing, right? And a big part of this channel is to just make it clear, listen, we know that your family is struggling and we know that your family is getting worse off. And the reason is because you as a group are losing out to this super rich who are taking more and more and more. And you need to defend yourself from that group. And we need to unite to defend ourselves from that group. We're trying to make clarity. Look, we understand your problem. This is the problem. This is how you fix it. You need to deal with this group of people. But people don't understand that, right? And they're angry and they're scared. And I think when you make people angry and scared, it's so easy to throw them a group and like, these are the guys to be angry at, especially when people don't actually understand what's happening. People want to focus. People don't like to feel like, oh my God, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I don't know the problem. And then that's why you see the media throws, oh, it's immigrants, you know what I mean? Or it's Just Stop Oil protesters, it's them, you know what I mean? They're the guys doing it. Or it's cyclists, you know, like people are angry, people are scared, but people don't understand what's happening. So the media just throws them people to hate. So the hatred is there. But we're just throwing it amongst each other and we're hating each other. And we're not actually taking action against the group that is taking all of our stuff. And you know, with the media, the idea the media throws you about them is, oh, we need them. If they leave, we're f***ed. We need them. They protect us. Because they're the guys that own the media, you know what I mean? So the anger is there, the hatred is there, but you know, there's it's just classic. It's divide and rule, isn't it? There's a billionaire owned the media that just want us to hate each other and confuse us about the economic picture. So our job is to say, no, listen, you and we need to put aside our differences to prevent this disaster from happening, which is the super rich taking out stuff. And if we do that, then we can have a much better quality of life. That's the message we need to send. It's funny because I actually watch the super mainstream media, and the reason I do that is because I want to know what people are being told, because I want to be able to I want to understand what people are being told so I can sort of set them straight. You know what I mean? Like you're getting this message, but the reality is this. So I watch I watch BBC News and I watch Sky News, and, you know, sometimes I think it's not great. But I mean, really, I watch the markets. That's what I do. People are going to watch this and be like, I need to become a trader. I have a trading account and I trade, and I look every day what's moving. I talk to traders. You know, obviously I was a full-time trader for a long time, and I'm still in touch with some traders that I used to work with. And I say, you know, this is moving this way. What do you think of it? That's moving that way. Like, I'm generally aware, if there's any big movements in markets, I'm aware that they've happened. And yeah, I look at what the traders think, what the markets think. That's not to say that I think the traders and the markets are always right, but I think these guys are the best informed people. So I want to know what they think, and then I do my own analysis of it. I think first of all, if there's stuff that you really want to know, put it in the comments, because we do go through them, and like if a lot of people are asking for the same thing, then we will cover it, right? So if there's a specific thing that you're worried about, you don't understand, go through. Obviously, I watch this channel. I think this is like the whole idea of this channel is to make ordinary people better informed about what's happening. But I think ordinary people watch the news, but just have a skeptical eye. Don't be like everything's a lie, but don't be like everything's true. Just like, I think that the truth of the media is different media organizations have their own biases, right? Even something like the BBC has a bias. Everything has a bias. This channel has a bias. This channel is obviously about saying inequality is a problem and we need to tax the rich. You know what I mean? And you should watch everything with an understanding of what the bias is. If you find the media stressing you out, turn it off, because I think a lot of what the media does is just stress people out. Stresses people out. It makes people feel helpless. It makes people feel like, oh my God, the situation is helpless. There's nothing we can do. Don't get stressed. I would say realistically, so when I was a trader at Citibank, there was one point where I lost a lot of money, and I started to bring my textbooks in to try and understand what's happening. And I worked with this one trader who was from a working class background, that never went to university. He was a great trader, a really great trader. And he just slapped the textbooks out of my hand, and was like, listen, he said, how old are you? And I was like, I don't know, 22 or whatever, 23. And he was like, listen, you're not a kid anymore. If you want to understand the economy, go and look at what's happening. Walk down the high street, look at what shops are closing down. Look at like what's being advertised on the tube. Look at, is there more homeless people or less homeless people? Talk to your mum, ask her about her financial situation. Talk to your friends and find out what's happening with their financial situation, your friends and your friends' families. So I think the economic analysis on the news, most of the time, is horrendously bad. You might as well not listen to it, really. You're better off trying to build your connections with friends, family, workmates, to build an understanding of what's happening in their lives. I honestly think that, of course, be aware that, you know, things might be different in other parts of the country, other communities. You know, you're not going to know that the rich are getting much richer if you do that. But you build those connections, that gives you a better understanding of what's happening. And then, yeah, you know, are there any sort of other media outlets we recommend? Obviously, Navarra have been very helpful, supported us a lot. But I think you have to just, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, and you know, we try and do our best to do that, to fix that. We try to do our best to put that right. But yeah, I think try not to freak out, because I think a lot of the news can do that. Turn it off if it's stressing you out. If you have specific things you want to know about, put them in the comments. We can't promise we'll do them, but if we get the same thing asked a lot, we will cover it. But yeah, I think you're better off like working on your friends, your family, stay with them, talk to them, be open with your friends and your family about what's happening. And then that will give you at least a realistic understanding of what's happening around you. Yeah, and if you find that the news you're consuming is making you really angry, just stop and think, do these guys have some motivation to make me angry at those people? You know what I mean? Does it benefit them? Because I think there's a lot, but because people could turn and criticize us and say, well, you're trying to make us angry at the rich, angry at billionaires. To be honest, I'm not even trying to make people angry at the rich, angry at billionaires. What I want is for people to understand that this economy is driving off of a fucking cliff. That's what I want people to understand. That's all I want people, it's not about being angry at anyone. I don't want to point the finger at George Osborne or at Rishi Sunak, I never met these guys. They might be nice guys for all I know. It'd be a surprise, but they might be nice guys, right? This is not about being angry, right? I am somebody who made millions of pounds a year and continues to make a ton of money by betting that the economy is driving off of a cliff. And that is my simple message. We need to stop that from happening. We need to stop that from happening. And the only way to stop that from happening is significantly increased taxation of the rich. It's as simple as that. It's not about being angry. It's not about being angry. If you and me and our mates are in a car and one of our mates is driving the car off the edge of a cliff, you ain't going to help no one by being angry. You fucking take that wheel and you stop it from going off the cliff. It's as simple as that. There is a disaster happening here. When you look at how significantly living standards have fallen in the last 3 years, it's not going to keep happening at that speed, but I guarantee you, in 5 years, in 10 years, there'll be more poverty, significantly more poverty. But we can prevent that. We can prevent that if we fix our taxation systems. And if we don't, then we won't prevent it. And you will have that poverty. And you will have this broad poverty across most of the population that you see in countries like India, that you see in countries like Brazil, that you see in countries like Colombia, that you see in countries like Russia. This is what capitalist economies usually look like. And the reason that we don't have that kind of poverty here in Western Europe and in the States is because we have protected our wealth distribution. And we've prevented it from becoming extremely unequal. But that is what capitalist economies become if you don't stop that, and we're not stopping that, and that is where we will go. So I'm not trying to tell anybody to hate anybody. What I'm saying is the opposite. We need to get together to prevent this disaster. And I would encourage even the rich and even I'm a rich person myself, right? I would encourage the rich and the very rich to support this message because it is in nobody's interest to massively destabilize society like what we are doing. Last time this happened, last time we saw this massive increase in inequality, massive collapse in living standards, what happened? 2 fucking world wars, a fucking Holocaust is what happened, right? That is what can happen if you allow your society to collapse. It's not in anybody's interest. It's not in anybody's interest. So this is not about hating people. This is about bringing people together to prevent a disaster. And I know I've just said people shouldn't panic, and then I've said we're going to go into this sort of space, but it's fixable. It's fixable. It's fixable if we bring people together. It's doable because, even if you were to accept that the richest 10% or even the richest 20% would always oppose it, right? And some of them, I'm in the richest 20%, and I'm not opposing it, right? Some of these rich people will support it, but even if you assume 20% of people will oppose it, that leaves 80%. 80% of people, it's definitely not in their interest to allow this to continue. Definitely. So we need to find ways to reach those people and say, listen, this is what's going to happen if we don't change anything. And it's, and the power that we have and the power that we always have is that we're right. So people can come back in 5 years and 10 years and watch this video and be like, me, he was right. Just like people now can go back and watch our videos at the beginning of COVID and say he was right. This is the power that we have on this channel, is that the predictions are correct because the understanding is correct. Because it will happen. Because it is inevitable. We can see in front of our eyes the loss of the wealth of the middle class and the growth in poverty. We can see nothing could be more obvious. So these things all happen, and we need to keep saying that. But what I need to think about, and you need to think about, and the viewers need to think about, is how do we bring people on board? How do we fight against narratives that drive us to hate one another? Can we be big enough as people to reach out across the lines that we're being told to divide ourselves against? Property owners, non-property owners, people from the north, people from London. You see they're trying to drive ethnic division. You see they're trying to drive gender division. You see they're trying to drive age division. You know what I mean? We can't accept that. We have to be willing to look to people who are different from ourselves and say, listen, we have a common interest here. We have to be able to do that. And that is the only way that we will prevent a disaster. But yeah, it comes from a place of positivity, right? Not fear, of ability to connect with other people and just the message is simple. Listen, if we don't do anything here, it's disaster for 80, 90% of people, you know. You know, really unequal economies do not have 10% of people living a good standard of living. They don't. And that's where we're going to go, you know. So we can all kick ourselves in the nuts to try and be in the top 5%, or we can keep a good standard of living for most people. And it's in everybody's interest to do that.